Hello and welcome back to the jewelry box build. This video is going to be about setting the lock set. You can see here with this box that the lock set includes the set itself, the escutcheon, the key, and a strike plate. What we're going to do today is get this piece fitted into the front of the box, and that includes all these parts. So I'm going to slide this over. We have the lock set itself, and notice that when it's in the position, the key is offset, it's not centered. We've got the key, the strike plate we'll put in the lid. This is a metal escutcheon. We're also going to set it up to use a wood escutcheon, and I've got a couple of those from earlier batches. The hole that I drill in the front will be large for the wooden escutcheon. It would be a different hole for the metal escutcheon. And then the screws that we use to hold it in place. To show one sample one that's been done, you can see that I start out by laying out the hole. I drill the hole. I drill a small mortise, a narrow mortise that's deeper for the main body of the lock, and then a second mortise that's wider and longer for the strike plate. I set the whole lock set down about a 1/64 of an inch from this surface so that you can sand without it scuffing up. And it starts by taking the box from where all they are now, trimming the front and back to width so that you have the right alignment for the lid. And that is going to be our next step. And I'll set you up over at the table saw to show that. So this is the finished box. This is a sample I just finished doing. This is another sample, and this is the good front of one of the poplar boxes. What I'm going to do is walk through all the layout steps and then go through each machining process so that you get a quick overview of everything that's involved in doing this. It's about a 5-step process. It includes the layout, and then drilling the escutcheon hole, and then drilling the first mortise, which is the deeper one, and then the second mortise, which is this for the larger strike plate. And then we test fit the lock set, and then the pilot hole for the screws. And then I've confirmed all the machinery is set up, and I run the whole batch. But I don't run the whole batch until I've confirmed it by doing these. And that's as far as we're going to go today, is just get so that everything's set up. This is test fitted, everything's confirmed, and then I can run the batch off camera. The first part of the layout is to find the center line of the front, strike a line, and then strike another line that is down 11/32 of an inch from this edge, and that is where the hole will be for the key. And I've done that here, striking that. I use preset squares for doing the line, and then I put an awl mark in. From here we can go over to the drill press and drill that hole. If I could make a quick introduction, this is my Delta 17-inch drill press, and it's just the best drill press I've ever used. It has the rack and pinion adjustment for the height of the table, and I just love everything about it. I've set up for this cut, I've set up a plywood fence in the back, a scrap piece, and then in the far side I've set up a stop for the end of the box front. So I have the two box fronts. All I have to do is align it with the plywood, put it here, turn it on. I'm drilling about a 1/4 inch deep just so that it goes into the mortise. One of the confounding influences is getting sawdust either behind the piece or on the edge. So you have to be able to clear that. So we have the hole for the escutcheon, and the next step is to cut the narrow, deeper mortise. Before I cut the mortise, I use the marking gauge to scribe the two lines that define the edge of the mortise, and then just a pencil line for the ends. I'm going to do that with this piece now. The point of doing that, we'll see after I drill the mortise, is that the burr from cutting the mortise causes a problem later on unless you strike a line to break that chip. And let's go to the mortise now. I've aligned the end cut of the mortise with the pencil line. And now I clamp the workpiece in place, and I have just, that's a little bit too far. So I'm going to make an adjustment. And that's the size of my mortise. Here we go. This, if we can look, is how the fibers build up on this one edge. That's not a problem with this mortise, but with the next mortise, because it's so shallow, that will be. And we're going to deal with that now. But here's just a quick look at the mortise, the hole for the escutcheon, and now we do the second mortise. To lay out the ends of this second shallow mortise, I fit the lock into the first mortise. I can see that the keyhole is lining up pretty good. I have to push it down a little bit, but I make a pencil mark at the ends. Pull that out and scribe just inside that. Then using a second marking gauge, I scribe the edges so that those fibers will part. And then, because the real problem is on the ends, I take, this is a number 8 carving gouge, and I pull it inside the pencil line, and I just give it a quick tap to sever those fibers on the top edge. Because the mortise is so shallow that it'll tear out. And so with that scribe line, we'll go over to the other mortiser and cut that shallow mortise. The point of doing those scribe lines is when you get through the cut and you see all this waste, that it just breaks off. The edge, if I can get closer here, is only a 1/16 of an inch. And if you pull that, that will break. So by having the scribe lines, it makes it easier to clean up that edge. And now the test is, I'm going to take just a minute and try to clean up some of this and see if we can get a fit. I'm going to tap it in. And we've got it. The strike plate is a little bent, but you can see the keyhole, if I can show this, is lined up inside the hole for the escutcheon. I'm going to very quickly use the awl to start a center point for the screws. When I put in these small screws, I use paraffin wax to get them started and to hopefully keep them from breaking. When I put the screws in, I do it by hand. We're going to go through this real quick, getting the screws in place. And that pulls it down flush with the edge. Feel it pull in. There might be a little bit of sawdust underneath it, but the test here is, does the key work? And it does. So that's it. I am going to put all these dimensions of where to drill the hole, where to put the mortises, location of the screw holes at the end, and do all the metric conversions. Thank you. Just a quick recap on what we went over. Some of the material wasn't in the frame earlier in the video. So this is the lock set, the kit that comes when you purchase it, and I've got a link in the description, the affiliate link to purchase these. You get the lock itself with the screws, the strike plate, an escutcheon, and a key. The escutcheon that comes with the set is metal, but I upgrade that to these wood escutcheons, and I'll show how to make those in another video. But the diameter of the hole for the wood escutcheon is larger than for the metal escutcheon. So if you want to use a wood escutcheon, the hole in the board, this hole, would be 5/16 of an inch or 7.9 millimeters. Now, to go through the layout for the holes in the lock mortises, I'm trying to show it here. So the distance from the center of this hole to this top edge is 11/32 or 8.73 millimeters. The hole diameter, if you're going to use the metal escutcheon, is 9/32, 7.14 millimeters, or for wood 5/16, which I just said, to 7.9. I drilled the hole about 1/4 inch deep, which is about 6.35 millimeters. So that is the layout for the hole. And then the layout for the mortises, I've got it all sketched out here. The first mortise, which I'm going to show, is this deeper mortise, is 1/4 inch wide front to back. It's 1.5 inches side to side, and the 1.5 inches is 38 millimeters, a little bit over. The width of the bit, the diameter of the bit, would be 6.35 millimeters, and the depth is about 19 millimeters, or about somewhere around 3/4 of an inch. And then the shallow mortise for the plate, and I'll show that here. The plate sits into this shallow mortise, and that is a 3/8 of an inch bit. That's the cut from edge to edge. It's a 1/16 of an inch deep, which is only 1.6 millimeters, and 2.5 inches side to side, and that is 63.5 millimeters. And to go over what to set the marking gauges at, for a board that's 1/2 inch thick, which is about 12.7 millimeters, the scribe for the small mortise is 3/32 from the edge, and for the larger mortise, the scribe is 1/16, or like 1.6 millimeters. 3/32 is like 2.38, 2.4 millimeters. And that's it. Thank you.